One's a Chiefs fan, the other's a Pats fan, and together they make Primetime Dimes.
What's up, my fellow football fanatics? Welcome to episode 8 of Primetime Dimes, your weekly source for surviving the offseason and breaking down the headlines during the season. I'm one of your hosts, Megan, and with me as always is Chelsea.
Hello.
Hey.
I have a question for you.
Ooh.
My soccer knowledge ball.
Ball.
Yeah,
Yes.
get it?
Yep.
You're like my magic little 8-ball, but you're like my magic little soccer knowledge ball.
I love that. Okay.
Please explain to me why my name is trending everywhere. I mean, I love it, but I have no clue why. And I know there's a soccer team named Chelsea, so please tell me what is happening.
Oh, they won the Champions League. So that basically means they are the European champion. They are the best of the best in Europe. So it's the first time it's the second time overall they've won the Champions League, but it's the first time since 2012. So
Damn.
yeah,
So that's
big
like
deal.
It's a big deal. Okay.
Big
Woo.
deal.
Yeah. Anytime I like go to get Starbucks or something and it's a guy barista and I say my name is Chelsea, they'll be like, "Oh, like the soccer team," and I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it's why you're wearing blue, right?
I knew they were blue and I knew they were a soccer team. I knew something was happening.
Yeah, you got to rep.
More blue.
Got to rep.
Go Chelsea.
Go Chelsea. I like it.
I don't even watch soccer, but
Hey.
I will say it.
There are worse ways to choose a soccer team or a football team, to be more
I think
accurate.
it's very fair that I would like just naturally cheer for them if something's going on with them because my name.
Yeah, and I mean, you could just choose them because they're a kicker. I mean, we'll talk about that more in future episodes.
Emma knows about that.
Yeah, Emma knows a little something about that. But we actually have a couple interesting free agency updates, at least for me.
Yeah.
We have Julio Jones has stated that he will likely leave Atlanta, and he's likely going to either the Titans, the Patriots, which hopefully, please, and the Seahawks. So that's a new trade watch.
Not gonna lie, I would love to see him on the Seahawks.
I want him on the Patriots. I want to see what Cam and him can work up because they're good friends.
Or Mac Jones and him can work up.
Well, yeah, I would assume it's going to ultimately be Mac Jones, but I'm going to say Cam Newton right now until I'm told otherwise. Yeah, the Seahawks. Another one who I had heard also for Julio Jones are the Rams, but I don't see it financially working out. So even though, speaking of financials, we do have a cap space update for 2022. So the NFL and Players Association agreed to a salary cap ceiling of $208.2 million per team for the 2022 season. That's a lot of money. And so the 2021 cap space was currently set at $182.5 million per team, and all of this is based on a projected revenue for the upcoming season and revenue lost during the previous season. So before the pandemic, the cap had been increasing by about $10 million a year. So this was the first time they saw a decrease, but really makes sense in lieu of everything. They didn't have fans in the stands. They didn't get money for parking. They didn't get money for concessions. They didn't get money for tickets and merchandise. So,
yeah,
sad to see. And I guess there aren't really any major updates with Aaron Rodgers, but
just a lot of speculation, honestly.
Yeah.
We all know that there's something going on in Green Bay. We know Aaron Rodgers isn't happy anymore, and we know he's maybe not going to be on Green Bay in the next year or so. Like, we don't know.
Yeah, the only update with him is like he didn't show up to OTAs. So off season, there's some activities that occur for about a couple weeks in the middle of off season, just so that you get familiar with certain concepts. It's where they really, really start early work on getting, ensuring that receivers know routes and getting a sense of where their players like to play in response to one another. So that's interesting. I mean, at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers knows the Packers playbook, even though it's only his second or third year with LaFleur. It's like he knows the system, so I don't think he really needs to be there. And veteran players typically do skip OTAs to avoid injuries and spend more time with their families. So
Isn't he on a like Hawaii trip or something? I read. So I think it's so funny that all of this is like all of this talk is happening around him, and he's like a very big name right now in the off season for like what he's going to do next or what's going to happen with Green Bay, and he's like off with his fiance and like another couple in Hawaii or something.
yeah, both
Like,
of
yeah,
which are movie stars.
yeah, like you Rogers, you have some fun. You don't worry about what's going on over here. You're gonna come back and you're gonna do fine.
Yeah, that man has nothing to worry about because at the end of the day, he's still the reigning MVP and he will play
Yeah.
somewhere. And
Yeah.
maybe he's back at Denver. Maybe gets to play for the Broncos and continue living like a cowboy. Go have fun, Aaron Rodgers. You've earned your due, or you've paid
Yeah.
your dues.
Oh yeah.
But I guess that's. I mean, we're really in the dead of free agency. Like things won't happen until after June 1st, and we're recording just before June 1st. So news will pop off soon, but not until after June 1st, because that's where a lot of players,
Yeah.
the contract, kind of the fine details of the contracts really make it that if you're going to pick up a player after June 1st, you save a $10 million cap hit. So yes, people are going to
Yeah.
wait till after June 1st.
And I think with the lack of things moving around right now too, it is like everyone is really focused on Julio and Rogers. Like it's even like shifted a little bit from Watson. Like I don't hear much about Watson unless something new is gonna pop out about the cases. But yeah, I think everyone's really trying to just like swarming around these two topics because there isn't really much else going on right now and probably won't until June starts.
Yeah. So with that, an opportunity is presented, and we get to talk about why we love football. And we both, when we were talking off camera, kind of realized the players do a lot of work outside of the field or off the field, and they do a lot of philanthropic work to the point where the NFL even acknowledges this with an award at their own award ceremony. So every year, the Walter Payton Man of the Year is awarded to the individual who, is an award that is presented annually by the NFL, honoring a player's volunteer and charity work, as well as his excellence on the field. So each team nominates a player from their squad, and the winner is then announced at the player awards at the end of the year. And the most recent winner was Russell Wilson of the Seahawks. So he plays quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
I love this award. I love that not only does it recognize that they're a great player, and it does take a lot of hard work to be a great player, but they're also putting work in off the field in helping communities that they now live in or that they used to grow up in, or it's just something near and dear to their heart that they can give up back because these guys are given a platform, and I love that a lot of them are taking the opportunity to do something good off the field. Speaking of Russell Wilson, as he is the most recent winner of the Walter, oh my God, how do you say it? Walter
Tongue
Payton
twister.
Man of the Year. Because I say Peyton and then I want to say Manning.
Oh yeah, inherently.
Every time.
Whew.
I will say it every time. So the Man of the Year award to Russell Wilson and his foundation is Why Not You? It was founded in 2014. It's a not-for-profit organization dedicated to education, children's health, fighting poverty and empowering today's youth with a why not you attitude. And I just love that he just wants to change the world and he's doing it through the youth. That's the best way to do it is to go to the youth, and he's helping a lot of people that need it. So it's well deserved for him. I love the organization that he has created, and I love how involved him and his wife Sierra, who is big in the music industry, that both of them are
Superstar.
working on this. Yeah, superstar Sierra. But yeah,
Automatic. No, that's Missy Elliott. But
funky fresh. No,
it's
that's
oh
Sierra.
fuck.
It's Sierra
Yes,
and
it
Missy
is.
Elliott. That's the right.
One,
You
two
got it.
step.
1 2 step.
Nailed
that's,
it.
yeah. That's scream Sierra. That's what the scream is at the beginning of the song.
I'm glad.
You got
Man, my
it.
neural instincts are correct. Oh,
We're old. We're showing our age with that song.
whatever. I'm old as heck. I love it. I got to turn 30 this year.
Jeez. Good luck with that. I'll be joining you soon, but I'm happy you go first.
I'm all ready for it. I'll embrace it.
30 is the new 20s. You got it.
Don't have any fuck trophies.
But back to football. But yeah, I love what Russell Wilson and Sierra are doing, and I love it. I'm pretty sure they both accepted the award together. They were both at the
Yeah.
virtual award ceremony together to accept it, and I just love seeing them together. Power couple, power couple.
They really are.
Yeah.
It's nice to see.
And then there is, the NFL themselves not only do the players themselves have their own causes that they've either founded or are a big part of, but the NFL themselves also has a very fun, in my opinion, a very fun charity opportunity that they give the players. It's My Cause, My Cleats. It's probably one that you are all familiar with if you watch the NFL frequently. So these are each week the players get a custom pair of painted cleats, and they they do not wear them to play. They mostly wear them on the warm up for warm up, and they'll take some pictures of them in them on the field, and then they get auctioned off to the players' charity of their choice. And some of the designs are just really cool. There's been ones for the Special Olympics. There's been ones for breast cancer. The one I know the most is that Travis Kelce does them a lot. I see almost every week on his Instagram when he's playing that he has a different pair of painted cleats, and Stephon Diggs as well. One of my favorites was his, and it was a SpongeBob episode of the Bubble Bowl. And it was
Yeah.
SpongeBob like singing. I love that one. So yeah, that's a very fun way for the players to get involved, for an artist to paint a pair of cleats, and then it gets auctioned off to the money goes to the charity of the player's choice. So I think that's a really fun one to get players into. It doesn't really even cost the players a lot of time either. All they have to do is wear the cleat and post the Instagram pic saying that this is their cleat this week, right? So it's just a really easy way for them to get involved, and I love that the NFL is providing them with that opportunity.
Yeah, and the cleats look dope.
Yeah, they're like primo, like beautifully done.
Yeah, I don't know if any of the listeners are shoe collectors or getting that new hot shoe. Some of these cleats are just so unique and something that even if you don't play the sport or like collecting cleats, it's an art piece. It's something you can hang above a mantle or in, I dream of having a man cave when I'm older. It's like, yeah, put that up in the man cave. It would be just so cool. Like for me, the first time I really started realizing or noticing these cleats wasn't from Instagram posts. It was from when I'd watch okay, this might show you how into football I am. I literally will have football on 24, like the entire day on Sunday. So when I see the warm-ups, I started noticing it wasn't the same old like white cleat or just a yellow cleat or anything. There was designs on it, and I even then didn't really notice. But then a Patriots player, Ryan, actually had one that was for shelter dogs on his cleats. And I love
Mhm.
that. I'm an animal lover, so that
That one was so well done too. Like I was actually just looking at it. I was just scrolling through them all, and that one was so pretty. We'll throw a few of these up on our Instagram so that you guys can see them too. But yeah, they've just been, there's some that are for ones that say sideline racism, stop police violence. Like
and
there's just
domestic
so
violence.
the list of things that players can highlight, like organizations that players can highlight every week just by using these painted cleats is amazing. That I just like again love that the NFL is giving them this platform. And like I said, it's just something they got to throw the cleats on and wear them. And I am someone who sees them more on Instagram because I do follow a lot of the players, or the NFL themselves is posting about the cleats that the players are wearing that week, and I love that they pay attention to that.
I definitely noticed that this past season because that's when I saw the NFL posting all of the cleats, and I'd find myself every so often showing my partner the photos, like showing Ryan some of the images, and he's not a huge football fan, but I found after a couple weeks he'd be like, "Hey, any new cleats?" Now he's also an avid animal lover, so I started with I went straight for the heart with the shelter dogs at one point, so I
Look
set
at the
myself up for
puppy.
success.
It was really like a puppy with
Yeah.
watercolors. It was so pretty. I would have bought those cleats, but I am not rich, so I could not afford that
No.
auction.
No,
Absolutely not.
also like knowing my luck, my dog, like one of my dogs would jump
Yeah,
up and grab it and like
my dog would tear them apart.
yeah, like my puppy just tore apart all of my slip or Ryan's slippers. So yeah,
Yeah,
the cleats would
Max
be
tore
long
the
gone.
top of my Timberlands. There's like one loophole that's missing because he chewed it down.
You hate to see it.
God love him though.
Yeah. Yeah, you really do. But with the my cleats, you also have the NFL will do Breast Awareness Month, so that
Mhm.
you will
You'll
see
see the pink.
players in pink, followed by the players in typically a blue, but I don't know if it's as common that it's the same blue for Movember. When they do Movember, they
Mm.
do
And they I know that the NFL has a military
yeah.
army game. The NFL has one too, don't they?
Yes,
And I
the
know that they sell like military jerseys.
yeah, and I know those portion of proceeds go towards
Yeah.
veterans affairs in the
Yeah.
states. So they're generally pretty focused on philanthropy, and I do know that
Like they're on TV 3, 4 days a week. You have a big platform. You know that it's one of the most watched sports in North America. Why wouldn't you use it as a platform to also show your support for these causes?
exactly. But outside of the NFL, or I guess more inside the NFL, the players themselves also have various
Mhm.
endeavors. You have, JJ Watt is someone you may have heard of when there was that devastating hurricane in Texas, the Hurricane Harvey.
He didn't win the Man of the Year award for that, did he? Because
I
that
don't
was the
think
same
so.
year as Colin Kaepernick, right? Was that the year Colin Kaepernick won?
No,
Did he ever win?
I would doubt it. That would not be something I think the NFL would do.
Do I remember that being a thing?
I'm not sure. But JJ has a JJ Watt Foundation on top of the money he's raised for Hurricane Harvey that's focused
Oh.
on funding after school athletics. So this is one
It
of
was
the.
I'm gonna correct myself. It was GQ Citizen
Oh,
of the
okay.
Year. That's why I'm like I
Yes.
remember him being something of the year, not NFL.
Yep. But still worth it. Still worth it. And so the really cool thing about Watt is, well, it seems fairly obvious that a professional athlete would fund an after school program for athletes. He ended up doing it because he started realizing that the shooting victims from Santa Fe High School, which was I mean, at this point, a lot of mass shootings have occurred, but it was a very big event in Texas, respectfully so. And he found that the shooting victims and kids that had to try and process the trauma they went through were doing a better job when they were in athletic, like taking part in something athletic after school. But a lot of them were not participating because they just couldn't afford to. And so he said, well, there's a better way. So, yeah, JJ is a giant proponent
Man
of.
of the year in my heart.
Yeah, and I like that he just kept at it. It seemed like I saw him everywhere on social media promoting his approach for Hurricane Harvey and trying to make sure that he could help as many people as possible. And like he was
raised
there.
so much money
Yeah.
for hurricane relief. I was like pleasantly surprised. Like it was so heartwarming to see how much like money he was able to donate, and just the sheer amount of it too. I'm just like, this is insane. Like from one, this is not an organization. This is not the Houston Texans sending this money. This is one player taking his time to raise money for this cause, and he was able to donate. I don't even know what the exact number was, but I can tell you it was a crap load.
I think it's still ongoing because, like, technically
Is it?
structural
Yeah.
rebuilding. His focus is to make sure that they can pay off rebuilding all the structures that were affected. But because you bring up Kaepernick, I'm actually gonna switch gears to someone who I wasn't planning on bringing up, but still lands on many lists of most charitable NFL players. You had Brandon Marshall of the Denver Broncos. He took a knee after the week after Kaepernick did it. So he followed suit and he started taking knees. He first took a knee on September 8th, 2016. And immediately after that, though, when the cameras were off and everything, he went to meet with a Denver police chief, and I'll leave the police chief's name out of it, but they met and they're to facilitate a dialogue between communities. And since that day, he's been working to ensure that youth can come in contact with police officers, specifically people of color, like youth of color, to facilitate a dialogue between police so that they're not as scared or nervous or fearful when they come across cops, but also to understand, like, to teach cops and explain to cops and like cops see firsthand why there's this hesitancy, why there is this belief that this could be a bad encounter no matter how it starts. And I do not want to misrepresent anyone's fears and pass them off as not important. They definitely are. And I just think this is a great dialogue that he's created. And so he ended up creating a foundation that's strictly focusing on trying to pursue a dialogue and try to move the line and move forward and figure things out. So he was cool.
That.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that was directly in response to seeing everything that's happened with Kaepernick.
Just, like you said, the first time that someone like followed suit for Kaepernick in like 2016, and we're still 5 years later, we are still talking about what Colin Kaepernick did. So it's like that, yeah, like one person can make a change. So it's really crazy to see that he like really did change how the NFL stands up for things and like participates in facilitating things and using their platform to create programs like the one you just talked about and facilitate change.
Yeah, and the last player I'd love to highlight is, because he just recently retired, Drew Brees. He was the former quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. And I like to talk about him because I actually didn't realize how much work he truly did in his charities. Like, this man really has two clear passions, and one is ensuring that New Orleans, I should say it properly, is safe following hurricanes, right? So he helps hurricane victims. He tries to raise as much money to ensure that the Purdue football team and all the through Operation Kids, he works with kids to make sure athletic programs are up and running in New Orleans, which is great to see. But he also has Dream Breeze Foundation, which is a foundation that is created in 2003 to support cancer victims in memory of his wife's aunt who had passed of cancer. And so he works in, I think it's like direct contact with everyone in that foundation because
Like he's very
he's
hands-on in there.
super hands-on.
He won. I just looked it up. He won the Man of the Year in 2006. So it was a few years after he started that. And then I also looked it up to correct myself. JJ Watt did win Man of the Year in 2017, and I think there was like controversy because that was also the year that Colin Kaepernick was. It was people were like, should it have been JJ or would have Kaepernick gotten it if he hadn't like left the NFL kind of thing? I think was the controversy. It's all coming back to me now.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and then he ended up winning Citizen of the Year. Like GQ featured Colin Kaepernick. There, got my story straight. Promise to do that before we start recording next time.
Oh, it's just a fever dream these days, though.
Yeah, it's just so much happens every season. It's hard to remember what happened to who.
That's why we decided to talk about it. That's why maybe
I love talking about this stuff, though. There was another person you wanted to talk about, wasn't there? Who is the most most charitable athletes?
Yeah, so there's this gentleman by the name of Michael Thomas who plays actually for the New York Giants, so not the New Orleans Saints receiver. And he's really cool because he actually hasn't created a foundation per se, but he is known as the most prolific volunteer in Florida since he started playing for the Dolphins. And this is till current. The article was written 2020, end of 2020. And it said till that day, even though he was traded from the Miami Dolphins in 2018. So he's still carrying on this work in Florida. And then on top of that, he's actually from Houston. So when Hurricane Harvey hit, he flew over there to assist Mr. JJ Watt and try to ensure that young kids were actually going to be able to get in contact with the right people to ensure that they aren't at a disadvantage following this hurricane, or is it as little of a disadvantage as possible. So he was really cool. I just like that he doesn't even have a foundation. He's like, I'm just going to go help with everything I can do. I don't have a specific passion. I just want to help. And I guess the thing we didn't highlight is each team in the NFL also typically requires all of its players to do some sort of social activism or philanthropic or charitable work. Mm-hmm. It's not thrusted upon them per se, but they have to do like community hours and stuff.
I'm sure there's something in their contract about X amount of hours, or you have to post something about doing something good. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, they're a very public figure, so I'm not surprised that is something that is required of them. But even that it's required of them, look how above and beyond some players go. Like, you can really tell that, like, they would do this even if it wasn't a requirement, and I think that's something that needs to be said.
Yeah, absolutely. I do not want to discredit what the players are saying, but I also want to show that, NFL teams are also doing some of their part. They could do more, but they're definitely doing some part.
I was so impressed with Patrick Mahomes when he entered the league for the amount of things he did off field right off the bat. And one of them was starting his own foundation. Like, you hear of a lot of players partnering up with foundations. Quite a few of them have founded their own, and I don't know if he was like, I don't know if it's true that he was like the youngest or like the like how many years in the NFL before you started your own
Yeah.
foundation. I feel like his was very quick. Like I haven't heard of many people who join and 2 years later have their own foundation.
Yeah, me
Uh,
either. I think like Russell Wilson might have been what close
yeah,
because wasn't he
I think that
2013 and then it
was I can't remember what year he entered, but he founded his in 2014. So yeah, his might be the next that's like closest to that. I could be completely wrong, but
yeah,
from
I'll check.
from what I've heard and seen, I feel like this is one of the ones that's very soon after becoming big in the NFL. You have your own foundation, which is 15 and the Mahomies, and that's dedicated to improving the lives of children. It supports initiatives that focus on health, wellness, communities in need of resources, and other charitable causes. Their biggest program that they run is called 15 for 15, in which they support 15 youth charitable initiatives that focus on academics, science, the arts, classroom supplies, athletics, children with disabilities, after school programs, and so many more other things. So again, I love seeing them give back to the youth, especially youth in need, and helping these kids out. I love it.
That's fantastic. The one thing,
Yeah.
and I don't have tons of specific examples of this because I don't think there's a lot of
Mhm.
or much that's been established as of yet, but a lot of the newer guys I am finding are starting to speak a lot more about mental health too.
Yes.
And I love to see it. Like I did focus on mental health in my undergrad, but the leaps and bounds it feels like we've made in terms of a conversation of the last couple years seems something even we didn't really discuss
Hmm.
when I was doing my undergraduate degree, which is it's nice to see, even though it feels like we have a long way to go. Seeing professional athletes speak about something that used to be so taboo is just great, and I can't wait to see.
Especially like they're men and they're showing vulnerability on a platform that is shown to America. Like America consumes this platform heavily, and they're being very vulnerable, and it's just so impactful to watch. Like it's very I cannot commend them enough for the people who speak out about mental health, especially male, and especially like yeah, any male person with a platform who speaks out about it, because it is a lot more like I want to say more talked about with women than it is men, and there's still a bigger stigma around that. So, the one I can think of most recently was Dak Prescott coming out saying that he was going to therapy and he was dealing with it and he is working on it, and just him saying that little tidbit
Yeah.
went so far as to help people. And if he can do it, you can do it, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, it's funny because that's actually one of the specific foundations I was thinking in possible link ups is Hayden Hurst after. So in the game after Dak Prescott came out and spoke, Hayden Hurst was the tight end on the opposing team. And after the game, he went up to Dak and he said, like, A, appreciate what you're doing, and B, my mom and I have a foundation that we're putting together that's dealing with focusing on suicide in youth and mental health in youth, and asked Dak if he would want to link up and do some work. And Dak's like obviously was like, absolutely, like let me know, my man. And they just recently posted an update that starting next, I guess at the end of this season, there will be tons of collaboration. So with
Aw.
that, my ideal situation is to see mental health become a forefront cause in the NFL because I feel like we need to start talking about it a lot more and we need more
Mhm.
publicity. But
Yeah.
what about yourself? Are there any causes that you feel could be highlighted in the near future with some of the younger generation now starting to enter the NFL? It brings just an opportunity of some cool.
I I don't want to say I think, I want to say I hope with the younger generation coming in that we see, like, I'm very happy with the amount of Black Lives Matter and um, like everything around that topic coming in. Like, that was very big this season, like, far beyond just kneeling. You know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
was plastered on the back of helmets. People were putting them on their cleats. They were tweeting, they were talking about it. It was just blown to a proportion I never thought it would be, in a good way, not blown out of proportion. Like like just it blew up in a way that it needed to.
Talk your talk and go louder. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Type thing. Yeah.
And so, like, following that, I feel like the next thing I would love to see the NFL sort of speak out about would be the LGBTQ community, trans rights, stuff like that. I think it's very big right now. There's a lot going on with certain states, like not allowing trans girls to play on girls' basketball teams and stuff like that. And I think that it's soon going to start happening where we're going to have trans men in the NFL. I don't
Yep.
know if there is anyone that has ever been. I don't know if there ever will be because of the stigma around the sport. But that is something. I mean, this is a whole conversation we can have on another.
I'd like
on
to have
another
that
day, but
conversation for sure.
that if I'm gonna pick one, it would be that I would like to see represented next, and it's really hard because there isn't really any players in the NFL that are out right now. I think there was only ever one.
Yeah, I can't recall any
And
that are
he,
openly out. Like, I think there
because I was
probably
doing
have been
some
some
research
outed, but
for I was doing some research for a later episode, and there was one player that I found, and he wasn't in the league for very long. So like that's something I think that we need to have like the NFL needs to have a conversation about, because like I said, in 5 or 10 years, I won't be surprised if there is a trans man joining the NFL.
yeah, but I don't know if I would. I would love to see it. I
Yeah,
should
exactly.
absolutely
So
start that off. That like I want
yeah,
anyone to be able to, anyone who identifies as anything, have opportunities available
yeah,
to them. But it's just like part of me is like, well, I know girls can girls can play men's sports. The problem has been men playing female sports
yeah.
or women's sport, or I don't know the proper term for.
It's the argument people are making is that because they're born male and males are like
Yeah,
physically more like
it's the
better
testosterone,
than
but
yeah,
after you're on
exactly. But it's like
estrogen for
after
2
you
years,
transition, exactly, you don't have the testosterone of a
yeah,
male. So it's so construed.
yeah, no,
It's
it's so
so
political. It's ridiculous at the end of the
yes,
day.
I guess that's the word I was looking for. It's very, very political because what they're saying does not agree with the science behind transitioning.
Yeah, no, it's infuriating that
Yep.
that stuff happens, but it's just like, would there be a problem for a trans man to play in the
I don't
NFL? And I'm like, in
I don't
theory,
think it
no.
would be a problem. I would just
The
I think you
locker
can just
room excuse.
exactly. That's the locker room excuse, the just it's very new. You know what I mean? I'm sure there are some people in the NFL that we don't know about that if a trans man were to join, they might start sharing views that the
Yeah,
modern world doesn't agree with. So I think that's where the problems
that's
would be,
fair.
is in a social aspect, not in the playing aspect. And that's why I think the NFL needs to start making it a comfortable place for someone who identifies as LGBTQ plus to join the NFL. I guess that's more point than the point I'm making.
Well, that definitely sounds like a whole topic for a whole other episode. I'm
Absolutely.
glad I asked that question for sure.
Me too.
But
That's a
we'll
good
have to
one.
wait until after June 1st to actually see where Julio and Aaron Rodgers will be playing next season. It was
Mhm.
absolutely a pleasure to get to discuss what players do off the field, because we're about to talk ad nauseum about what these players do on the field. But next week we have a very special guest, Emma. Now, she's a friend of ours from university who actually plays in the same fantasy league as us, and she always has some really random hot takes in the middle of our draft or in the middle of our league. We have a Facebook conversation
He's
going
always in the group chat.
always. So I figured it was time that we needed to get her on here so we could call her
Yeah.
out on some of these terrible takes or fantastic takes, depending on who
Yeah.
you're a fan of. But until then, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe below. And we'll see you next week along with Emma.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Listen in to Primetime Dimes every Wednesday for your latest on football.